Alright, so, well, even though the LGBT plus community has made great strides worldwide, there are still some countries that haven't gotten the memo. Or maybe at one point they got the memo and then decided to backtrack. But anyway, Georgia, and I'm talking the country of Georgia, the Georgian parliament gives initial approval to sweeping curbs on LGBT rights. Because why not? Alright, let's get to the article. Georgia's parliament on Thursday gave its initial approval to a set of bills containing sweeping curbs on LGBT rights, including bans on the propaganda of same-sex relationships and gender reassignment surgery. How is that propaganda? People marry those of the same sex. Why? Because they love each other. I just don't see how that could be construed as propaganda. I mean, I guess if you want to use the original definition of propaganda, which didn't mean bad things, but what? The package was proposed by the ruling Georgian Dream Party, and which could outlaw pride events and public displays of the LGBT rainbow flag, was approved by a majority of deputies. It must pass 2 more readings before becoming law. So at least it hasn't happened yet. But still, why? I mean, what is wrong with pride events? What's wrong with showing the pride flag? I can't imagine that their reasonings are going to be anything less than bullshit. Because that's all bigots have. Parliamentary Speaker Shalva Papuashvili said earlier this month that lawmakers would only vote on the bill's second and third readings during the autumn parliamentary session. Okay. In the immediate run-up to a general election scheduled for October 26th. Oh, so this is an election year bullshit. Okay. I'm curious as to how many Georgians actually look at what is happening and think, we have nothing, we have no problems. Let's just go after gay people or trans people, because that's generally the only 2 kinds of people these people think about when they think about LGBTQ. He has said the bills are necessary to control LGBT propaganda, which he said was altering traditional relations. What traditional relations would that be? I honestly want to know. What do you mean by traditional relations? Because just because you only just learned that gay people exist does not mean that they didn't exist before. They've always existed. Anyway, the legislation would also ban non-heterosexual people from adopting children and prevent people from changing their gender on ID documents. Right, because children can catch the gay. Like I've mentioned many times before on this channel, I grew up watching heterosexual relationships, heterosexual people, and I'm still asexual. Because seeing a certain type of relationship isn't going to influence you shit. you're going to go by your feelings. Now, it might influence you in the sense that you feel forced to deny your feelings, but it's not going to actually force you to, be gay, even though you're not gay. Because the norm is heterosexual. That's why we have the word heteronormativity. Because people just assume that you're straight until otherwise posted. I mean, even members of the LGBTQ plus community are that annoying. Like, bisexuals somehow both exist and don't exist. They exist when they are in a same-sex relationship, but then they are some sort of traitors when they're in a heterosexual relationship. It's just bizarre. Anyway, public gatherings promoting same-sex relationships would not be allowed either. I don't even want to know how you promote a same-sex relationship. Okay, but let's go back to changing gender on ID documents. Now, this one I find I'm unsure of. I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it. Because if it's something like your driver's license, well, if you appear as a gender that doesn't, if your picture looks like a woman but you were born a man, why the hell would you put on your driver's license that you are a woman? I mean, wait, let me remember how I did that. If you were a man but you were born a woman, why would you put woman on your driver's license when people with eyes can see that you're a man? What is it with bigots who seem to think that because there are some trans people who do not pass, that no trans person ever passes, and so it's obvious. So why change ID documents? Now, when we talk about birth certificates, well, that's a bit more iffy, because why would you change the sex you were born as? You were born as a certain biological sex, unless you were intersex. But you were born a certain sex. The fact that your gender doesn't comport to that later on, and you decide to change your appearance, your outward appearance, to match how you feel, that doesn't change the fact that you were born one sex or the other. So that one I have a problem with. Add a gender marker, but leave the sex marker for that. Driver's license, yeah, things like ID, driver's license, I can see how, well, yeah, obviously you should change that to what you identify as, because, well, you happen to look like that person. So why confuse people by looking at your ID, your passport, your driver's license, and they're saying, why does it say male here when you look like a woman? So yeah, that's a little fuzzy. Public gatherings promoting same-sex relationships would not be allowed either. What is it about public gatherings that promote relationships? Are you talking about, I don't know, heterosexual couples holding hands and being all lovey-dovey? Is that promotion? And why is it wrong when same-sex people do it, but not when straight people do it? I mean, I just do not understand this idea that if it's normal, that somehow it has no effect on people to decide, oh yeah, that's the kind of thing I want to do. But somehow, because gay relationships aren't normal, that they somehow have this insidious way of forcing you to become that. Seriously, how does that make even remote sense? It doesn't. Either a kid seeing two people holding hands is going to affect who who this kid is attracted to, or it isn't. You can't have it both ways. But then again, I did have one. I assume it was a troll. Please, please, God, tell me it was a troll. I had one troll who claimed that when I brought up eye color, because it was during the era of the gay gene, well, we don't have a sexuality gene. It's just like we don't have, a specific gene for eye color. I think that it's a little bit on multiple genes, if I recall correctly. And the person just responded with, normal things don't have genes. That had to have been a troll. I mean, if you actually believe that you are just beyond, I do not know how you breathe on your own. Had to be a obvious troll. Anyway, so yeah, what promotion here? If approved, LGBT propaganda, I should put that in quotes, LGBT propaganda in the education system would be outlawed. Okay, again, what propaganda? Telling people that LGBT people exist? Saying that, you're normal for not being heterosexual? Which, fun fact, trans people can be heterosexual. They just also happen to be trans. So, yeah. And broadcasters banned from showing intimate scenes involving same-sex relationships. But heterosexual relationships are just fine. Seriously, stop with this. It's so obvious bullshit. If I see a straight couple being intimate on my screen, I'm not going to suddenly say, "Ooh, that's what I want to do." Actually, normally I think, ew, how do they think that's attractive at all? Like kissing. So, no, that's not going to make anyone think, oh, that's hot, I want to do that. So, unless it's porn and you're seeking it out for that very reason, but that's a different thing. But somehow with same-sex relationships, people are going to want to be gay against their will because they saw intimate same-sex relationships. This literally makes zero sense. I do not know how anybody, if they actually bothered to think for a split second, would think this makes perfect sense. They might believe it simply because they're vomiting out what they were told and they never even gave it a thought. But I would hope that most people, if they gave it a thought, they would realize how absolutely asinine this concept is. LGBT rights are controversial in deeply religious Georgia. Well, that answers that question. Where the country's Orthodox Church enjoys wide public respect. Okay, that explains everything. It answers all my questions. So it's not so much that that there's any backsliding. It was just a matter of what took them so long to do this. Because if they're that hateful, they should have done this a long time ago. Opinion polling shows widespread disapproval of same-sex relationships. Okay, then don't be in a same-sex relationship. It's really that easy. Unless you are just self-loathing, in which case I really feel for you. But Otherwise, if you're straight, then don't be in a same-sex relationship. It's really that simple. Well, Tbilisi's annual, let me just say it. Yes. Annual Pride March has repeatedly faced physical attacks by conservative protesters because nothing says I feel confident in my opinions than attacking people who are doing me no harm. Yeah. Yeah, that shows how strong and how confident you are in your opinions. That's how it works. Georgia's constitution bans same-sex marriage. Okay. So if it already bans same-sex marriage, why are we having an absolute freakout when gay people are happy in any way? We've already stopped them from getting married. So now you're going to stop them from existing. Good luck with that. Africa hasn't even done that, and they're way ahead of you in this bullshit. Georgie Tapagari, I'm pretty sure I butchered that, but okay, founder of Tbilisi Pride, said that the bills would make life unbearable for LGBT Georgians, which I'm pretty sure is the point. That's usually the point of these draconian laws. It's to make life unbearable for those people that they find icky or they don't like for whatever reason. That's the cruelty is the point. They think that if they make things unbearable, that people will just suddenly become straight and cis, even though you're just begging for them to commit suicide, which actually could probably be literally begging them to commit suicide because, those people literally should not exist. I always wonder how people are going to view asexuals because, like I said, the two groups that they concentrate on are gay and trans. It's like there are no other letters in the alphabet that covers the community because they can't handle in their little brains. They can't conceive that there could be anything but those two. Anyway, he said the future for queer people in Georgia looks rather gloomy if the anti-LGBT bills are adopted. Which, like I said, that's the point. The vote comes amid political tensions in the South Caucasus country after a Caucasus country. I know I missed a syllable. After a series of huge protests against a bill on foreign agents that was signed into law earlier this month. So, I guess, just like in this country, they're doing this to mask what they did, which most people find horrible. Oh, you find this horrible? Well, let's concentrate on how much you hate this community for absolutely no freaking reason. Well, no rational reason anyway. The proposed measures are likely to fuel the European Union and U.S. concerns about Georgia's political direction, following their criticism of the foreign agent law that critics see as a Russian-inspired and repressive. Yeah. Absolutely. The European Union's ambassador to Georgia said last week the country's process to join the bloc has been effectively halted by the legislation. And by legislation, I'm assuming they mean the foreign agents bill. Now, for those who aren't aware, they're following in the footsteps of Russia to crack down on foreign agents, doing things that, NGOs, things of that nature, doing things that the government doesn't like because, you know, everybody should just kowtow to everything the government wants them to do, which is not how anything should work. But at least that just, I don't know how anybody would want to join the European Union all the while doing what Georgia's doing. Actually, I'm surprised Hungary hasn't tried to leave the European Union. And I'm surprised, well, Poland got a better government, so. But yeah, I'm surprised that that someone like Hungary isn't trying to leave the European Union. No, it was, of course, they did see the shit that happened to Britain. So maybe that's stopping them. Traditionally pro-Western since independence following the 1991 Soviet collapse, Georgia has recently moved to restore ties with Russia, which has imposed its own curbs on LGBT rights. The Georgian government has said that the foreign agent law was necessary in order to combat pseudo-liberal values imposed by foreigners and to promote Georgian sovereignty. Because nothing says Georgian sovereignty like doing everything Russia does. So, foreign influence is bad. Western influence is bad, but Russian influence is perfectly fine. I had this problem with some African countries that were saying, oh, we're trying to, we're trying to do things that isn't advocated by the colonialists. And my response is, you're enforcing laws back from colonial times, so what are you talking about? Same thing here. It's hypocritical. You can't say we don't want foreign influence, but then say Russian influence is perfectly fine. Either you don't want you don't want foreign influence, or you do. But you don't get to pick and choose. Opposition parties, most of which have been boycotting Parliament, have described the anti-LGBT bills as an attempt by Georgian Dream to appeal to conservative-minded voters ahead of the autumn vote. Which, based on the fact that they're mostly deeply religious and hate the LGBT community for some bullshit reason, it probably doesn't take much. But yeah, they're probably trying to get the people who hated the foreign agents law to concentrate on something else. Your hatred of LGBT plus people. Because that's generally how scapegoating works. So that is all I have on that article. But since this is just the first reading, I'm sure we're going to hear more. And I believe that is all I have. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.